Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, and otherworldly and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. Without further ado, welcome to this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I am 1/3 of your hosts, Miss Moni, and along with me today we have Mr. Yardley. How are you doing on this fine Sunday morning?
Hey, I'm doing good. I can't complain. Excited to talk about some of these topics.
Nice. Miss Christy.
Yes, it's me. Well, I would like to say that the rain can go the fuck away because holy shit, we've had rain for like a week and then I just looked at the radar and we get more rain this week, all week, literally the whole week. So yeah, our porches are flooding. It's ridiculous. So otherwise, it's fantastic.
Is it like hot rain because it's June? Is it like
Actually,
humidity now? Or?
It cooled down quite a bit. I don't know what's going on. We must have gotten something from somewhere else. I mean, clearly that's where storms come. But usually when it rains in the summer, it's kind of a hot, steamy rain. But these are thunderstorms, like storms and lightning, and it's cooled down the city, which is nice. But it's good for like a day, but we're like on, is it day 4, I think, of this. So I'm kind of like, all right. And then I looked at the radar and I was like, oh, goody, it's going to happen till Thursday at least. So the only good thing about it is it gives you excuse to just do nothing. Like, well, I guess it's raining. I guess I'll just go to bed now. So that's kind of
darn
in my brain. But I'm excited about this finally getting to talk about Black Mirror dropping and discussing. I'm sure this is going to be a very controversial as far as feelings about these.
Yeah, sets of opinions from all three of us.
So
for sure.
I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. We have Black Mirror season 5. I thought it was only season 3. I'm like, where has the time gone? There are only 3 episodes, and I'm excited to see what y'all thought because not my favorite, but we'll get into that in a minute. This is my first week back recording with you guys in 3-4 weeks. So, and of course I'm the main hostess today. So apologies if I sound like I need to knock the dust off because I do. And we also decided to have our D&D game last night. I know, nerd, give me a wedgie. But we decided to make it into a drinking game. So shit is a little rough. It's 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, the night after we had a Dungeons and Dragons drinking game. So please excuse. But
yeah, and you texted me like early. I was like, well, early for you. I had just woken up and it was 10 here. And I'm like, what are you doing up, girl? If I was over there, I would not be awake right now.
The kids were up. The little girls both were up. The big one can kind of like feed herself, but the little one like can't even open the door to her room. So
yeah, I remember those days. I remember the day of Liberty when I finally decided they were old enough that I would pour their bowls of cereal and I would put plastic wrap over them and leave them on the counter, and then I would pour a milk into a measuring cup and put saran wrap over that and put it on the lowest shelf, in the refrigerator so that they could wake up and pour their own cereal and give us like at least another 30 minutes or an hour, of time. That you got a little ways for that.
Yeah, I mean, I could at least try a paper towel if I do that because the little one would probably like put the plastic wrap over her sister's face and that would be I mean, it would solve some problems. It would cause some new ones. You know how it goes.
Oh,
and I'm sure you're really enticing our listeners and Yardley with talks of small children. So to get away from that note, I had not heard this news that you have here, Yardley, about Swamp Thing being canceled. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, well, just the last show that Christy and I did, Swamp Thing was one of the topics that we brought up, talking about upcoming things that seemed kind of cool. I saw the trailer. I enjoyed it. It looked like it was produced very well. A lot of the reviews of people who saw it, it seemed to be that most people were enjoying it. And literally, pretty much after the first episode or so dropped, it came out that it had been canceled. And the reason why was apparently they shoot this series out in North Carolina. And based on a clerical error, they were thinking that they were going to get a tax break of about $40 million. And the clerical error, I think it was actually based off of a budget that they did. So the only amount of money that they had to allot towards the production, I think, was like around 14 million. So that's a very big difference
Yeah.
between what they were thinking they were going to get as a break. Also, the production, I think the production was around 10 million or so an episode, and those are like Game of Thrones type budgets.
Mhm.
So whenever you shoot something and then you spend all that money and then you're expecting to get that tax break, and then you find out because of an error that you're going to come up tens of $1 million short of what you thought you were going to get when you were shooting there, of course that's going to be a problem. And on top of that, the quality of the production, it's just going to be expensive. So I don't think that when they went into it, they thought that they were going to, have a kind of a net loss on what was going on, because that's one of the things about these tax incentives that states give for movie studios to shoot there, is that, hey, you know what I'm saying? We can take into account how much money we're going to save, blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah.
that kind of sucks, because there are a lot of people who subscribe to the DC Universe streaming service, and I think it has titles like what is it, Titans, and there's something, a Doom Patrol, I think, is on
Yeah.
as
So
well. So,
had they filmed? How much had they filmed by that
so
point?
I think the season is done. I mean, I think that they filmed enough, and I think actually it was. Gosh, I don't want to look through. I think it's either 8 or 10 episodes. I think originally it was 13, and then they reduced the order down to, I think, 10. But it might be 8 episodes. I don't have this other
Interesting.
document that I had up, but yeah, I mean, that kind of stinks. It stinks for the people in North Carolina who were
Yeah. We thought they had a job.
yeah, that was bringing jobs, and
I
it
bet
also
you that
stinks.
clerical error maker was fired as well. That's a big
Yeah, I
mistake
mean,
to make.
well, I
One too many
mean,
zeros, everybody.
yeah, but that's it kind of makes you question, though. I mean, how many hands does that have to pass through, and nobody noticed that
Yeah.
the
People just
numbers were
signing
off?
off on
So
shit. They're not reading it.
I don't think that it should be just one person.
No.
You know what I
I
mean? It
would
should have been.
take I would take some of that and turn it into a movie or something. Like what? I mean, you're just so that's it. So you have a whole season of footage,
I mean, that's already in the
and
can. Why not use it?
yeah,
I don't
use it, turn it
understand.
into a movie, and if there needs to be like an ending, then film the ending. Like, and then use whatever millions you had, left, whatever little bit that's left to film an ending, put it together, and at least make something off of it, and people would watch it.
Yeah, but
So
they're suffering kind of the same thing that, HBO, of course, is going through. Like, you got a ton of people who subscribe to HBO now specifically, or HBO Go
right.
specifically for Game of Thrones. So now that it's over, a lot of those same people are just, canceling their subscriptions.
Mhm.
So this also kind of makes you wonder, though, with this, what kind of strength that streaming service is going to have, you know what I'm saying, going forward. Because there's other articles that you can read that are saying, hey, things like this happening might put into question, their business model, how much money this streaming service is bringing in, blah, blah, blah. So it might be something a lot deeper, but I think it sucks because the production design, if anything, it looks great, even though I haven't seen an episode.
I cannot personally. I'm sorry, Moni. I didn't mean to
Oh, no,
interrupt
just
you.
go ahead.
I personally cannot see the success of a DC centric channel. I mean, I get it. There's a lot to cover, but I just don't think there's that many people that would subscribe to it to keep it flowing for good quality content. If you wanted to kind of branch out and do other things and it just be a DC, it's just called that because it came from them. I could see that, but just DC comics or stories is really putting you in a niche that that's kind of a risk to me. I just don't see it working out that well anyway, unless you're just going to do low quality stuff forever. It just doesn't.
DC is having a weird year. They just announced a week or two ago that they will not be bringing their upcoming films to plug at Comic-Con. They claim that it's because they don't want to compete with what Marvel and Disney have going on, and it's a Star Wars year as well. But it's an odd choice that they aren't even going to try.
Mhm.
And they're saying they're going to do it next year. But in the meantime, on the comics side, they are talking about quietly closing Vertigo, which, if you know comics, that's a big deal. And obviously, I know you guys talked last week about their casting of Robert Pattinson for yet another beating dead horse, in my opinion, as far as Batman films go. Like, I don't know what's going on, but their decisions seem to be becoming poorer and poorer over there. So,
yeah. That's a pretty big risk to me to take that, but we'll see. I mean, I think sometimes, like when you're in situations like that, sometimes just going back to your roots and not trying, like you said, not trying to compete with Marvel, but doing something different and
do your own thing. Swamp
yeah.
Thing was something, I mean, they've done it before, I guess, but for right now, like instead of another Batman story, Swamp Thing was something semi-different. So it's a shame that this clerical error has kept that from happening.
Well, I think Swamp Thing is a great idea. I think it's the perfect storyline for this generation, and that, with everything that's going on on our planet right now. I don't understand why they wouldn't just take what footage they have and suck it up and make a movie and like put it on Netflix or put it somewhere to recap some and get some money. I mean, they're flushing money down the drain right now. It just makes zero sense. It doesn't have to be on their channel
Platform.
Just get some money coming in first and then use that and redo it, or look at something else, or maybe you'll recoup enough to finish the series or create it somewhere else or do something. But I just don't think that's a smart business plan at all, to be like, oh well we can't do it here, so we're just going to cancel it and shelf what this whole season. That's crazy to me. So, and
I wonder what the circumstances are, but yeah.
And it would even be good to like put it on Netflix as a series, get a bunch of people hooked on it, and then do the rest of it, on your channel once you find the budget and another location. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he could go in, like Swamp Thing could end up finding another swamp somewhere else, He does not tied to Louisiana. So anyway, I don't know. We're talking about it too much, but I just can't understand why they do that. It just makes zero sense to me.
Well, while I have you, I want to hear what's going on with meth Legos, because my kids play with a lot of Legos, and clearly I have the wrong ones.
My son literally in our attic right now has one of those giant plastic tubs with a lid full of Legos. He was a Lego fanatic, you can imagine, because he's obsessed with building and creating things. So Legos are, of course, what helped fuel his passion growing up. And I just thought this was hysterical. Child discovers $40,000 worth of meth inside box of Legos, which I can imagine that if you step on the meth, it's not as painful as the Legos. So I could kind of get down with that, because damn, those things hurt.
Or you could take some meth and forget
about exactly. Stepping on And this happened in our own backyard, Yardley. When 3 Georgia women found a box of Legos in a consignment shop in Charleston, South Carolina, they figured it would be a good gift for a child back home in Statesboro. But when the kid finally opened the box, he didn't find any Legos, just a bag with 3.2 pounds of methamphetamine worth around $40,000. Sorry, but can you imagine the person that lost that and going, what the fuck? Oh, God, my eyes are watering. I'm laughing so hard at this. Okay, Bullock County Sheriff Investigator Jim Riggs, Georgia, told the Statesboro Herald that the woman didn't know that they were transporting drugs when they took the Lego box back home. They took it and gave it to a young child who opened the box and was very likely disappointed, adding that the intended recipients were probably even more upset. The Lego box was shrink wrapped to look like it came from the factory, but may have been purposely sent to an incorrect address before it ended up on the consignment store shelves.
Nice.
I guess this is the common thing. And when they ship them to empty or abandoned addresses, hoping to have someone pick them up. Well, now I'm learning about how to transport drugs. Sometimes unclaimed packages can be sold at auctions. So that's probably how that ended up happening. The woman turned the drugs over to the sheriff's office, which called in Drug Enforcement Administration agents to investigate how the package arrived at the consignment shop. According to Facebook posts from the Bullock County Sheriff's Office, no charges have been filed. Well, you're going to arrest the kid?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Try tracing those Legos back to wherever.
No shit.
So,
yeah, good times.
Would you even report it, or would you just, quietly try to sell $40,000 worth of
I would be way out of my element on that one. What do you think, Yardley?
So would I report it or
Or
whatever?
sell it.
Or would you try to sell it for 40
I mean,
grand?
I look, devious worst case scenario, you know, of not doing the right thing. I'd be like, I got 3 pounds of meth, $5,000 a pound. Get this shit out of here, and then I'm gone before anybody knows what the fuck happened. But the right side of me would probably just either. I don't think I don't really, unless it's absolutely necessary. I really don't want to call the police for shit. So if anything,
Yeah.
I'll just be like, hey man, y'all know somebody who want this, y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, you frequent New Orleans. I bet if you go down there one year, you wouldn't have a problem finding people take it off your hands.
Well, I'm not trying to be in Angola either, but like I said, the devious side of me could, you could consider doing that because that's something you can move. But then I probably, just looking at the pictures, I probably wouldn't have known that was meth.
I have no idea. It looked like
It looks like brown sugar.
yeah.
And it just looked like a bag of brown sugar.
That's a down payment on a house, though. So I don't know. I might have figured out a way.
But ain't nobody trying to move no meth. You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't know what to do.
No meth here. I got a bag of brown sugar. I want my money back because I wanted Legos for my kid. But
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, that's a trip though, and this type of thing. I'm not necessarily saying that these seizures happen a lot, but I know a lot of people that is definitely a thing of just shipping it and just having somebody to go pick it up. That's been a thing for quite a while, actually.
Wow. Well, you learn something new every day.
He really knows a lot about it. So on that note, and then also Miss Christy.
Yeah.
Swarm of ladybugs.
Yes, cutest.
Better than a plague of locusts.
I think it's the cutest storm, quote unquote, that ever popped up on radar. So I had to share because I love ladybugs. Last Tuesday, National Weather Service office in San Diego picked up not rain on the radar, but a group of ladybugs called a bloom. Can you imagine that many ladybugs? Like, I saw the radar. It looks like a thunderstorm rolling in. That's how many were in there.
Yeah. I heard about this because I live out in the San Diego area, and actually we were like, "That's so weird." And then all of a sudden we were like, "No, we've had a super bloom. We've had a lot more rain than usual this year, so we've had a super bloom of all of our flowers." And so we're like, "It makes sense actually that all these ladybugs would be coming for that."
Yep, it says the array of beetles were spread throughout the sky rather than packed into a clump, which is usually what they do, flying between 5,000 and 9,000 feet. It says that. Where I'm looking. Sorry, I'm scrolling because there's a lot of just talking about weird things caught on radars. It says, although no one has been able to identify the type of ladybugs blooming on the radar, it says they're most common. The convergent ladybugs are the most common, and usually they migrate to the mountains to feed on aphids and pollen. So that's that, and I thought it was really cute, and I wish that you could see the picture. This article does not have a picture, but it had better information. The last article I saw, it was just a huge weather radar picture, and it was just, you could see this huge swarm. I mean, can you imagine? I guess it's better than locusts and all that. So if you're going to be bugs if you're going to be enough bugs to show up on a radar, I'd rather them be ladybugs.
Nice. So I posted this on our Facebook page, and I actually had tagged Christy because I knew it would be her jam. But there actually was a declassified, and the FBI tweeted it out, declassification of their investigation from the 70s of a hair analysis sample that they picked up from what they, at the time, a well-known Bigfoot researcher had given to the FBI. So the researcher is Peter Byrne, and he had been at the time the director of can you imagine this is your job, the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition in Oregon. And he had a simple question for the assistant director, Jay Cochran of the FBI. Have you been testing possible Bigfoot hair samples? And if not, would you like to start? So it just goes on to say about how the 70s were a heyday for Bigfoot researchers, and that was when they had caught the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, which showed one of the creatures walking through California that had been shot in 1967. And so the FBI Assistant Director Cochran was not really surprised by this question because they had been asked several times in the past year whether it had been testing samples. And he said, we have been unable to locate any references to such examinations in our files. They're so dry. I love it. Like, however, we've been unable to locate any such references. Like, okay. But so he had sampled, had a sample. So Mr. Byrne had a sample he wanted the FBI to examine. It was 15 strands of hair attached to a small piece of skin. And it was the first that they had obtained in 6 years, which they felt must have been of importance. So you get a bunch of Bigfoot samples every 6 years, and the public didn't know about this. It's kind of interesting. So the FBI is not normally in the business of examining tufts of hair for their potentially fantastical origins. It was more focused on criminal investigations. I suppose that's, true and good. But for the reason that it may be lost in history, he ended up agreeing. Occasionally, on a case-by-case basis, in the interest of research, blah, 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 we make exceptions. And with this understanding, we will examine the hair and tissue mentioned in your letter. So today, the idea of a blah, 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 backstory, I just kind of want to see what the outcome was. The article, let's see. They were held up and given high credibility in June of 1976. So the Times also reported on it, called it America's Own Monster, and said that it could not hold a candle to the increasing sums of money that were being spent by reputable scientists to investigate things like Loch Ness. So there you go. Loch Ness, Nessie was bigger, not physically bigger, but more popular in that time, and so was Bigfoot. And the FBI did go ahead and look into this hair and say now that they've declassified it, said that it was from a credible source, whatever the hell that means. What do you guys think?
I mean, it seems a lot to do about nothing as far as their information that they're sharing. I mean, it doesn't seem
it's not like you can cross-reference it, though. It's not like you have another Bigfoot to be like, well, this is definitely another Bigfoot, I don't know. All you could say, I guess, is like it came from a mammal and it's a source unknown. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. And Moni, did you try to read all of the pages? I tried to, but it seemed like the scans, it was just not really, it wasn't
very
really legible.
1970s in the hand-drawn
Yeah,
here,
but it really does lower your enthusiasm about these Bigfoot investigations. And do you think the fact that they put this out, I mean, there's always going to be people who say there's more to this, and enough stuff didn't get released or whatever. But when you read this type of thing, does that kind of even lower your expectations that there's actually anything like this out there?
Yeah, we've talked about that with aliens too. It's like someday, whatever answers that we've been talking about on shows like this and documentaries and all these things might just be declassified, and it's just going to be like, especially with our short turnaround time of the news cycle, it's just going to be like, wow, that's interesting, and next.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of takes some of like the fun and mystery. It's like, well, the FBI looked at it and said it was credible, the end. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like womp womp. So I kind of like to have mystery. I like not knowing all the answers and having conversations with you guys about, what we think about it. But here we are. So the age of no mystery.
Yeah. Well, there's still plenty to be mysterious about, but
true.
I also don't believe that they really, and this is going to be, of course, something that everybody is going to say if you're really into like conspiracy theories, but did they really release everything, or are they just saying they did? I mean, they don't have to officially say release everything and just be like, yeah, here's what we got on it. That's it. Now, go away and leave it alone. But I don't know. Could be all they got.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of evidence that seems to be collected for a time there or two, and it could have been ruled out and been like nope, this was a boar or whatever the fuck, hair or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't take it out of the realm of possibility, I guess, but it's also kind of much ado about nothing, because it's not really an answer either.
No.
So, and at least it was dryly given to us by the FBI assistant director, so thanks for that.
Yeah. They were thrilled about the whole shenanigans, weren't they? They were just like, yeah, great, this thing. Okay, yeah, have it. Take it off the shelf, please.
No, we don't have a clue.
Yeah, so. We didn't really invest any time in this. We have zero shits about it. So
sure,
please take it.
Hairs.
Yeah, their hair, all right. Whose? Yep. We don't know. We don't care.
Didn't come from a stuffed animal, so.
Yeah.
So onward to and debatably upward, we'll see Black Mirror season 5. There were only 3 episodes, which I thought was kind of sad too. I kind of would have been willing to wait longer for more episodes. And I'm just going to start by saying that for me, Black Mirror is a show that has really set the bar on its own episodes for being so high. I mean, we reviewed the last season, and just of all the shows that I've watched, what sticks with me in my head the most are some of these episodes of Black Mirror. And this season, I feel like there was a lot more stunt casting. We had Miley Cyrus, we had Anthony Mackie. I love them. Don't get me wrong, but I just Topher Grace was also in there. There was a lot of names that you would know, and I don't know that the quality of the show matched up to some of the names that they brought to it. So, do you guys have any comments going in, or shall we dive into the summary of the first episode?
I'm ready to dive in.
Let's attack it here.
Okay. So the first episode was titled Striking Vipers, and this was the one that starred Anthony Mackie, and I will butcher her name, but the lovely lady that plays Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel movies is in it as well, actually. She's adorable.
That's who that was. Yeah.
Yeah, the cute little Asian lady in the game simulations. Yes, that's her. So Danny lives, and Danny is played by Anthony Mackie, lives with his wife Theo and son Tyler. His friend Carl introduces him to a virtual reality fighting game called Striking Vipers X, in which he can feel the physical sensations of his character, which is a really neat, use of virtual reality. Danny and Carl play as Lance and Roxette, and after their first fight, began kissing. They began regularly having sex in the game until Theo confronts Danny about their deteriorating relationships, basically at home at 2. Danny locks the game up, and then several months later, Theo invites Carl around. So his wife invites Carl around for dinner as a surprise on Danny's birthday. And throughout the episode, we do see Danny is just, even at the beginning, he's a little bit out of place with his own life. It's kind of that thing that you see as a theme in a lot of television shows and movies where you have the perfect life, but like, are you happy? So it does bring up some interesting questions, and you see him kind of seeming to be really happy, not only when he's playing with his friend, playing video games, but also now having sex within the video game. So several months later, the wife invites Carl for dinner as a surprise for Danny's birthday. And then Carl tells Danny, and we have seen this too as a montage in the show, that he has been unable to recreate the sensation he felt when having sex with him. So Carl used to be kind of like a playboy. He's taking out these really young, hot women, and that also is not fulfilling for him anymore. The pair have sex in the game again and then kiss in real life. They actually went out to meet each other and have this moment where they decide to say, let's shit or get off the pot. Are we gay?
Yeah.
And so let's visit this by trying to kiss one another in real life and see is this something, because they had been friends, their whole lives, basically, at least since college. And so they're like, if we kiss in real life and we see that we're gay, at least we know where we stand. And so there's this big dramatic scene where they meet in the middle of nowhere and they kiss out in the rain. And what did you think of the delivery and the acting in this scene? Because I'm just going to say, Anthony Mackie, when they say, like, did that work for you? And Carl says no. And then Anthony Mackie's character says, yeah, me either. His delivery of that, I wasn't sure if he was telling the truth. I thought maybe he did enjoy the kiss and didn't want to admit it. Did you guys feel that way at all in that scene?
Did you want to go ahead and go, Chrissy?
Yeah,
I really, go ahead.
I didn't feel that way. I thought the scene was funny, kind of, because I think it was more of a like, what is this then? Like, I don't think either one of them felt it. I did not get that feeling, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. Just for me, I didn't see that. I think they were both like, what the fuck, because I'm sure going through all of this, they're thinking they're gay and they're not. So then when they finally kiss in real life, this is like you said, shit or get off the pot moment. And they were kind of like, nothing, like.
So it's something about the characters and it's something about the sensations in the game and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a confusion of then what the hell, So,
or maybe the thought of it. I feel the same way, Christy. The only thing that I thought was just kind of weird. I mean, the whole fight just didn't even need to happen. That was just I didn't. I didn't really know why they had to do that. And also earlier in the episode, because remember it was his birthday, I think he was
Mhm.
sort of going through a midlife crisis because there was a moment early in this particular spot where remember I don't was it his ex-girlfriend, it was another woman who came to the party and she was bending down and her butt was
Yeah.
showing and he was there staring
Yeah.
at it. But I think that was another one of those moments where he was trying to figure out where he was in his life or
Yeah.
what he really wanted. But there are some situations that's in this that's kind of funny. I mean, I think of the
Yeah.
three that we had, this one was probably the strongest, and even
Yeah,
this
I
one is
agree.
just kind of
It's very
you know what I mean?
slow.
I thought
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
the reason why they had to make them fight is because something had to happen to force
Force them to
Danny to
yeah,
tell
yeah,
his
to tell.
wife. So he
yeah.
wasn't
So
going to say a
Danny had
word.
been confronted by his wife previous to this because they are trying to have a second child. And sexually, even prior to this all starting to happen, he wasn't really up for it, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And so basically, they go out to a nice restaurant for an anniversary dinner, and he's just sort of going through the motions. And she calls him out on it. She's just like, I got hit on at the bar by another dude. I could have what I want, but we make sacrifices for the relationship. Are you seeing someone else? And he doesn't take the opportunity then to tell her the truth about what he's been doing. And so just to get to the end of this before we get too much into talking about what we thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
So as we said, they kiss, and then they kind of begin arguing, and they were kind of like fighting basically about it, which, as Yardley said, didn't feel really that necessary or believable. But yes, as Christy mentioned, it was kind of a catalyst because they end up getting arrested. And then when his wife goes to pick Danny up at the police station, she's like, okay, why are you fighting? I could tell there was tension between you when I invited him to dinner. What the fuck is going on? And he opens his mouth, and then they cut to the next scene. And the next scene is, once again, we're back to Danny's birthday, which seems to be a big marker in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And him and his wife exchange boxes, and basically, I think hers were earrings or
It was
something,
her
that
wedding ring box.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So she could put her wedding ring in the box so she could go out
Yeah.
without it. And he receives the little thing that you have to put on your head to go into this VR sim. And so he goes and has sex with her permission, basically, with her blessing, with Carl's character in the game. And Theo goes out to the bar and picks up Min. And that's the end of the episode.
So-
Well, actually, the credits
but
were rolling
also-
while that was happening.
Yeah.
But also, I think part of that was just something that they do on his birthday.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So it was like basically now I think once a year she allows him to hook up with in the game, and she goes and does her thing for that one day.
Mhm.
I think it is. Agreed. Now, here's a question for you. Do you think what him and Carl were doing do you consider that him cheating on his wife? I mean, yes, because it affected their relationship. But if it hadn't had any effect on his relationship to his wife, would that be cheating?
Oh my gosh,
That's a big question.
This is a whole nother, because we've had conversations like this on indie radio about stuff. Because see, it's almost like we're asking if this is cheating in fucking virtual reality. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
that's
It's
what
like,
I mean. Like, is that cheating? I don't
Oh,
know.
but somebody, I'm sure that there will be people who damn sure say yes, and there will be a lot of people who say no. But
I think
we're almost there.
I think if you're going to be open to having letting your partner do something, like this would be the way to go about it versus in person, I guess. I mean, it's
That's true. There's no STDs.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. No pregnancy, no STDs, no nothing.
Apparently no romantic entanglement as they, kind of got down to.
Yeah.
I
Of
think
course,
it's
you could
both
be hooking up
parties.
with a dude and you don't know it because that's actually, like you said, the girl was actually a guy. Of course, he knew that. But if you didn't know
Yeah.
that,
That was weird too.
Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, there's a lot of complications in that. But
catfish
I don't know.
unleashed.
I'd rather roll the dice and both of us go out and find a real person to smash for one night than like I get the video game and you get the smash.
Yeah.
Because there's a different kind of obsession that can come with video games in general, and especially in this case.
I just didn't know if y'all thought, because I was kind of torn by it. I'm like, okay, in reality, this isn't for real, but it doesn't exist right now. But is it? I mean, I kind of agree with Carl where he was saying it's basically like porn. I don't know.
Yeah.
Except you can
It's like
feel it,
porn, but
you know.
it's like a porn addiction.
Oh, totally.
I knew
Totally.
someone who in their marriage had a porn addiction. The man
Yes.
did, and it ended up affecting everything from the way he
Absolutely.
treated her in and outside of bed. That's the problem. I don't know about cheating so much, but it definitely is an addiction that would harm any relationship. And I think, think about their kids. They don't really show they end up having another baby and all that stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are the implications. This was the only one out of the three, I would say, that like made me think, which is one of the things I really love about most Black Mirror episodes is you think about it, kind of gets into your head. I found it to be incredibly slow. Did you guys think that was the slowest episode you've ever seen of Black Mirror without like a huge payoff?
I didn't think it was slow.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I didn't really think it was slow
don't
either
know.
because some of those early Black Mirror episodes, like you're just. I mean, like the one where the guy. Gosh, which one was it? The one that had the guy from Get Out in it.
Oh, the one where he's bicycling.
Yeah,
I
that one.
that is
And
pretty
I
slow.
liked that episode, and that was way slower than this. So
Mhm.
Was the payoff though in this one warranted for how slow it was, or not slow? But was that worth?
Because didn't they all clock in a little bit over an hour, like an hour 16
Yeah.
minutes,
Yeah.
or something like that?
Not like
I
they
don't
have
know. I mean,
commercials to break up.
they probably could have shaved 16 minutes off, maybe.
I
But I don't know. I just
personally,
don't.
I thought I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was fine. I thought the pace was fine. None of these episodes to me were Black Mirror. Like none. I did not get any feeling of Black
My mind
Mirror
was not
except
blown.
for the
Exactly.
equipment, like the equipment, of course, that they use with like the virtual reality little plug and all that is, but it wasn't dark. There was no darkness. These were just problems that you're going to run into with these as technology grows now, which is what Black Mirror is about. But there's this darkness tied to it that usually is there. And I just did. These were basically like all San Junipero or Hang the DJ, which those episodes are beloved because they're a sunshine in a dark, like darkness. Like the whole series is dark, and then they throw in this one that's has a good ending or a decent happy ending, and the others don't. So it's like that's why they're beloved. And so I don't know. I just didn't feel like this was a true Black Mirror series, and I'm confused why there were only 3 of them. I know we're going to talk about the rest, but since you were asking, I mean, I didn't hate this episode. It was my favorite out of all of them. I thought the pace was fine. I liked the ending. I thought it was interesting, and yes, you're right. It did make me think, which was the first thing was like, is this cheating though? Like, if you're not addicted to it, and it's once a year or twice a year or something, and it's and if you consider that like porn and you can do it in moderation and not get addicted to it, maybe that would work out okay, but
I think by way of having his wife's blessing, it's not cheating.
Right.
However, would it hinder the marriage? I don't see how it couldn't.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I didn't feel like it was within the wife's character. I know she mentioned that she could sleep with other dudes.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like seemed like she was really happy.
Right.
Barring his unhappiness that she could see, but she seemed like she was really there for it, and it was just kind of odd that she was just like, "Well, fine, I'm gonna go get some strange dick." Like,
well,
I don't know, man.
What I thought was gonna happen, because at the beginning of the show, it shows her liking the role playing. Remember, he like goes and pretends like he hits on her at the bar at the very beginning of this episode, and he's like, "Oh, my girl likes role playing." I thought for sure that after they phase out at the end, that it was going to be them exchanging ear things, and they were going to be hooking up in the show because she liked role playing. That's
I thought that she was going to get a male avatar,
Yeah.
something crazy, like some type of some type of freaky thing. That's where I thought it was going to, Christy. Which, to be honest with you, the concept of what they were doing, I thought was great because this was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
But I figured that they could have put a little bit more to it because I do think that would probably be a compromise that a wife would probably say, like, well, if that's what you're into, we can do it together. So
Right,
I thought
right.
it was going
Yeah.
there too.
That's where I thought it was going to go
Well,
because
she
she
was
said,
friends with Carl too. So
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. That's okay.
Oh, she was friends with Carl too, so they had that trust relationship. Whereas the three of them could have had
Well,
some.
Carl,
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
now, Moni, you know good and damn well you wouldn't let Carl get in the game with y'all.
Right?
Well, you be like, Carl, you got to
Yeah,
get the
that's
fuck
true.
out
He
there.
was
So
he was a little
That's true.
too dependent on it, you know. Now he was. I think Danny had eventually got a good handle on the situation and realized this is wrong because it's changing my relationship. Carl was like throwing everything out and like hooked on it. So, and I don't know if it's because he was a woman in it and it was so different than what it felt like as a man. So then he was, you know, addicted to that feeling or not. But I would have loved it if she would have gotten involved. But her going out like organically and hooking up, that to me was worse. I don't know why. Like, I'm like, so
Well, like
you,
she got a
with the
spite. She's just like,
bartender.
well, I'm gonna go actually
yeah,
like,
I'm going to get a
put
real
ourselves at
dick
risk.
and you're going to go do it
Yeah.
virtually. I mean, I just thought I was kind of disappointed. I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to now, because she loves to role play too. And now this is her opportunity to do this. And they could like pretend in virtual reality that they're different people, like they were doing at the bar, pretending like they didn't know each other. So I would have liked it to turn out that way. And like you said, maybe pull in some other people or something and it be like just their thing they do once a year, you know, on his birthday and it be both of them. But I guess that's not how they wanted to do
Just,
it.
I don't know. I just didn't, yeah, I didn't find it overly believable. And she did have the opportunity to find other dudes. And I think I
Yeah.
would have left him with his little virtual reality game and his buddy and like whatever.
Once a
But
year.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So did you guys, but Anthony Mackie, his acting was great. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody, I don't think, could have perfected that far off I'm unhappy look like
Yeah.
he did.
Kind of going through the
But-
motions. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So what did you guys think of the acting and of the episode? Where would you rate it overall?
Out of what? I
Uh,
got a 10.
We doing out of 10? Is that what we
we
normally?
could. Yeah.
I think that we've, I mean, I'd give it I don't know, I'd give it I'm trying to grade it just based off of this
That's what
particular.
I was
Itself and
getting
not
ready to
off of other Black
ask.
Mirror.
So,
Yeah.
That's what I was
So,
getting ready to ask. Are
I-
we doing it
I'll-
with all series or just
Yeah.
this season?
This
uh,
season.
they tried it. They tried hard. I like the concept. There was a couple of things that I could tweak, but to be honest with you, I'd probably give it an 8. You know, because I just don't feel like I didn't really feel like it was slow. And I thought that there were so many different ways that they could take it, and that's a good problem to have. You know, that we can go this way, we can go that way. So I give it, between a 7.5 and an 8. But I would feel confident giving it an 8 because I know that the next two I didn't like so much.
Yeah.
Because
Kind of ups its rating. Yeah.
Yeah.
I give it a 7. I thought it was good. It was my favorite, which will tell you exactly how I feel about the rest of them. But
Yeah.
I if I had to grade it against all the other seasons, it would be a 5. You know,
Yeah,
just
I got
because
Yeah.
I have
Same.
so many favorites of Black Mirror that I'm confused about this whole thing. Like, what happened? What are they doing?
But I
It
don't.
felt like a rush job, honestly, to have 3 episodes
Yeah.
with stunt casting,
But
Yeah,
why?
absolutely. But there are some episodes in other seasons that I would probably give a 5 to, though. I mean,
Sure.
True.
yeah, you know what I mean? But I think this, just based off of what we got with these 3 episodes, I do think that this one is far more superior than the next 2.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I just think that the concept, because one of the things that Black Mirror does is they mix technology and then they just kind of make you think
Right.
about, think about a lot of things. And I think that
Sure.
this one, the reason why I could push it up from a 7.5 to an 8 is just the fact that there's so many things that you can think about and that you can talk about in this one. So I have to give it a score that's a little bit above average.
I agree. I agree with you on that piece of it. I did. It's the first one I watched. Or no, it's not. For some reason, they played the Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 episode for me first. I have no idea why Netflix did, but
Oh,
yeah, it was weird. Then I watched the Striking Vipers or whatever it's called, and then it was Smithereens. I don't know why it happened in that order. So I was like happy that that was the second one. I'm like, okay, good. Maybe we got something that's better than what I had just seen. But yeah, I even when the other one started playing, I was still thinking about this episode because I was like, would I, I was trying to put myself in her position as the wife, and then I was also trying to pretend like if this was something that they had a healthy handle on, because if this is like the next porn, because I think this is where we're going. Like, we're going to have to face this. I think porn's fine in moderation. I don't have an issue with porn. I've watched it and I watch it. It's not like maybe like 3 or 4 times a year, but, and I think that's fine. I don't consider that cheating. And I do that with my husband. I mean, we're not like hooked on it. We're not dependent on it. It's there. We use it when we want. That's what I'm wondering. Is this cheating when you're in that mind frame? So I had a lot of things to think about that because we have to be honest and realize that it's right around the corner. So
yeah.
it was an
I think it
interesting.
might be not cheating, but I think it might be more addicting just because you get the physical
Sure,
sensation as
absolutely.
well.
It's something that like you have to be smart about and use in moderation, the same
If
as
you knew
real
you could
porn.
go have safe sex all night without your partner finding out, and actually
Yeah.
bonus with somebody that like in real life, as far as like trusting from a friendship perspective,
Yeah.
it's different.
Absolutely.
So
anyway, yeah, I was right. I'm with you, Yardley. It made me think, so I enjoyed it.
yeah, I did think about it more than I thought I would, and I do though think not only as Yardley mentioned, does it make you think? Black Mirror is known for making you think, and that's what you
Right.
want out of their episodes now. But I also think they introduce like next level shit, and not even just technology, but just like stuff that you might not have thought about or
Yeah.
implications for the future that are terrifying, and that's what makes it great. And yeah, this is an implication for the future, but it's not necessarily terrifying, and honestly it's already happening. So it wasn't introducing anything next level that like blew my mind. So semi fail
Well, what was
on
yours
that.
rating? I never heard your rating.
I would give it a 6.5 or 7, and that's like you guys said, only in context with the other 2 episodes here.
Right.
Just like you said, actually, Christy, I'm right with you. I would have given it a 5 comparative to other seasons and other episodes.
So, question for both of you: like,
sure,
what is your favorite Black Mirror episode? Like, what's the one that you just like? It's stuck with you. It's what you think when anybody mentions Black Mirror. It's the first thing that pops into your head. Like,
I don't remember the actual title of the episode, but it was the fucking the pig thing.
oh, the first. That's the first one.
That was the very first one.
That's the first
They came
one.
out swinging.
Yeah, they did. I was like, what the?
If it wouldn't have been for that one, I might have bailed. But
yeah,
that one, and then I think the second one that kind of drew me in, which was probably in the same season, the one that we were referencing earlier with
San Junipero. Yeah, the one with the bike riding.
Yeah, but like I said, they've had a lot that'll make you think. Wasn't there one that had well, anyway, y'all go ahead and pick your favorite one. But I was Black Mirror just makes me start thinking about all those other episodes.
Yeah. What do you think, Moni?
Yeah, that's same. I was just like, why is this one like so slow? It's well done, but it's like watching grass grow comparative to. And then again, there have been slow episodes of Black Mirror, what I consider slow, but then the payoff has been like mind blown, and this one was just like, Meh.
So your favorite of all the Black Mirror is the pig one?
When you think about what stuck with me the most,
yeah.
I don't know about favorite, like most enjoyable, because there's not a lot enjoyable in that one. But I think also not knowing really what Black Mirror was, my husband kind of had to convince me that this is a thing and that people are talking about and you need to watch it. I was like, man, the honorable mentions, San Junipero, like you mentioned.
That's right.
The one with Bryce Dallas Howard, where she's the rating
the
human
social
beings
media.
Because
yeah,
I feel like that's happening.
Yes.
Now, and so that one was kind of mind blowing. Yeah, there's a few others that still are stuck in my head, but I don't know if anything is stuck in my head as much as the pig fucking one.
Yeah, San Junipero was a good one, but I don't know if I, like I didn't really feel like if that was the first Black Mirror episode that I watched, I would have been like, yeah, that's cool, but I did like the story for that one because we actually talked about it on the podcast. It was a great one, but I don't know. To me, that one didn't have a big thump at the end. It was, everything kind of worked out, I guess.
I think it worked so well because the others were so dark. This was like finally one that has a good ending, and it was clever, and I loved it. I loved the storyline, but I especially think it sticks with people because these are so dark, and then finally there's like this one that you think is going to end bad, but it actually ends good, and you're like, oh yay, finally a happy one. My favorite one, and I don't know why it just stuck with me, is the one with the bees that you can hack and they kill you. Like the one where they're government bees, but somebody hacks into the system of the bees.
Okay.
Because their bees are dying. And so they create robot bees to pollinate, to basically
I don't even know if I remember that.
It just...
Yeah, I don't either.
It just stuck with me. I think it was in the second season, or maybe it was the third. I get them confused because I watched like 3 of the seasons all together, so it felt like one giant season. So I get a hard time with separating them out. But they're bees. The bees are dying out, which they are. And so the government creates robotic bees, and somebody hacks into the bees, and you vote online on who the most hated person is that week, and he sends those bees to kill that person. And it could be anybody. It could just be some woman that popped up in the news, and that's what ended up happening. And the FBI is like basically trying to protect these people because they're getting murdered by these robotic bees. And she's this woman police officer, and I cannot remember her name, but I really love her as an actress, is trying to protect this woman who happened to like have an affair or something like that with a guy. And she was voted as a like famous guy. And she gets voted as the most popular, hated person. And she's got her in a bathroom in like a hidden town and trying to cover, and the bees of course find a way in because they're tiny, and she watches these bees just go at her and kill her. And it was just like, holy shit. Like to me, like trying to do something like turn around our planet and then it go and be a weapon, and be a weapon hard to run from. I mean, bees can get in anywhere, unless you lock yourself in with no air and die that way. So it was just, that one just I don't know why, but it just fucked with me. And I think just depending on who you are is what stays with you, like that one just stayed with me. And that's the first one I think of when I hear Black Mirror is, oh God, the bees, because I love bees, and for them to come murder me would be like, oh. So anyway, I just wanted to know if anybody had any other ones that really stood out. And pig fucking is definitely, the first time I watched it, I was like, what the hell am I watching? It was so bizarre.
For sure.
So
I am sitting here collecting showing requests for my house. So apparently I'm going to have to get out of here soonish.
What does that mean?
So I'm going to go ahead.
Oh,
my life is
for
a
the
flame
house.
and poo show, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We
go
have
for
not
it.
sold our house.
Awesome.
Okay, so Mr. Yardley, can you take us through what should have been episode 2, Smithereens?
Yes. So Chris works as a taxi driver for the app Hitcher. He goes to a group therapy session where a mother talks about her daughter's suicide 18 months ago. He has sex with her, and afterwards, she makes her daily attempt to access her daughter's Persona account before it locks her out. The next day, Chris picks up Jaden, an employee of social media company Smithereen, and holds him hostage at gunpoint. Police notice suspicious activity and chase the car until Chris swerves to avoid 2 cycling teenagers and comes to rest in the middle of a field. As the police arrive, Chris gets Jaden to contact people at Smithereens and demands to speak to the CEO, Billy Bauer. Police and Smithereen employees investigate Chris, finding out that his fiancée died in a car crash a few years prior. By lying to Jaden about his gun being fake, Chris works out that the police are listening to him in the car through his phone. He demands to speak to Billy Bauer in the next 5 minutes, threatening to shoot Jaden otherwise. Despite his employees advising against it, Billy accepts the call. Chris recounts that his fiancée died in a car crash when he was driving and looked at his phone, though the other driver, who also died, was blamed for being drunk at the time. He gets Billy to contact the Persona CEO and give the mother he met her daughter's password. He then attempts to commit suicide, but Jaden tries to grab the gun off of him. A sniper shoots as the pair grapple over the gun, and then the screen pretty much goes to black. So, well, let me say this: I like this better than the next one,
Hmm.
but I've got to say this one really didn't have anything for me because after a while, and I know that it's the UK, so a lot of times when I'm watching how the police will respond to these situations, I think about how the police respond
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, and then there's just so many opportunities with things going on with Jaden and, him basically being a person who was residing to be in the position that he's in, even though there were plenty of opportunities for him to at least try
Yeah.
to make a way out. And then once I
What was
start,
that about?
yeah, so once I start talking to myself a lot while I'm watching some shit, I know that this is probably probably pretty mediocre, but I would probably give this one yeah, I would probably give this one like a 4.5. Like it just really didn't resonate with me, but there were some moments in it that I thought were kind of okay. But I don't know.
It's a
This one
ringing
was
endorsement. Kind of okay.
yeah, it just was one. It's definitely forgettable. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would talk about it outside of reviewing it for this show.
No, there were interesting. There were some legitimately suspenseful moments, I suppose, but I don't think you could not get that out of an episode of 24 or like pick any real suspense thriller type of show. You would get a lot more of that. Topher Grace as the CEO, Billy Bauer, was fine. And, they tried to paint a more, like, at first hipster, but then kind of came around to being a more relatable CEO guy. But I don't know. It's meh. What do you think, Miss Christie?
I liked the concept. Like when you're talking about it, when he just read that description, I liked that. I'm like, that could have been a good story. I don't think they did it the right way. I think
Yeah, agreed.
I'm like, why? It could have been better. It could have been darker. I think there was too much time in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to make it suspenseful by not talking about what happened, but it lost people
It hurt.
doing
Yeah,
that.
that hurt them more, Chris. I
Yeah.
think if we would have known about his fiance and all of that stuff earlier and
Yes.
understood why he was doing that, I think it would have been a little bit better. But then you kind of drag through this whole episode and you're like, what the fuck's going on? It's slow as hell. Why isn't this
Yeah.
person doing this? Why is this person doing that? Then you hear his
Yeah.
story. And the acting when he was telling his story was great.
Yeah.
If we could have gotten that earlier on and then it led to the other events, I think it would have worked out better. But what can you
Agreed.
do?
And I thought I really liked Topher Grace. I wish he was in
Mhm.
more stuff. I didn't even realize that was him until there was some point where he started to talk and I recognized his voice. And his voice is so
Like, that's the kid from that
recognizable.
70s
I'm
show.
like, it's Topher Grace. I love him. And I forgot that he was even in this. So I forgot to even look for him. But I just felt like this was a really missed opportunity. Like this could have been a really good one because again, Yardley was reading this and it sounds good. It sounds like a good show.
Because you
But
read it in a short paragraph. You didn't have to
yeah,
watch an hour
hour
of just
worth
like,
of this
okay, shit or get off the pot, shoot 'em or don't. Like, I
yeah,
don't care.
sitting in a field, sweating and screaming, and you don't know who the fuck Billy Bauer is or why he's asking for this guy.
Yeah.
And you
And
would
then
think,
eventually you don't care because it dragged out
yeah,
for so
exactly,
long.
because you would think that would be suspenseful, but it was not suspenseful.
I thought that the story with Billy Bauer would be a lot more like mind blowing after all that build up.
Yeah,
So.
they really could have done something well with this and they didn't. So I was disappointed and I didn't really have my hopes up. I didn't really know what to think. But after watching all of them, went back and reflected and was like, I could have really liked this episode if they just tweaked it some and changed it around and I don't know, made it more dark. I know this seems dark, but it just, when you don't know what the fuck's going on for 90% of the show, you don't have a chance to invest in it. So I just didn't feel like they did it the right way. I'd give it a 5.5 for the attempt to the story. The rest is lost because the execution sucked. It didn't resonate with me at all. And it could have.
The guy who plays Chris is Andrew Scott. He
Mhm.
plays Moriarty in the Sherlock series, if I'm not mistaken, and he's a phenomenal actor. He's got some kind of big villain role coming up for something major. I can't remember though. But so that part, obviously, as any Black Mirror, it's well produced, well acted, but Christy's right, Yardley's right. It just didn't have the payoff for all that we endured with the whole being in the car. Like we felt like we were the ones in the police standoff, and quite frankly, police standoffs, if they go for a certain number of hours, it's like, yes, it's tense, but also it's boring.
Yeah.
So,
One more
Exactly.
thing, and you can dive right into to the next one, Moni. The one part that I was thinking, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so obvious. I thought when they were tussling for the gun, of course, they were going to shoot the brother trying to shoot him.
Right.
I was like, I'm ready for brother to,
Yes.
brother down. But so what did y'all think real quickly? The way that it just cuts to black, what, in your mind, what do you think happened? Do you think the brother, I think the brother got shot in the struggle. Well, what do you think, Christy?
No, because it's not in the U.S. I think I know it happens in the UK too, but I mean that's the truth. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, I hear
That
you, but
let's
also that's probably part of my mentality why I think he got snuffed out. But
yeah, I think because they were being very extra careful when they were when the sniper or whatever sharpshooter, whatever the fuck she was taking out the driver. They were very hypersensitive and careful with him, knowing that he was a victim in all of this. So I don't think they did it all, and it's because it was the UK, the US. Unfortunately, we have a whole other. Probably going to lose some listeners, but I love the police.
Let's not dive. We got another one to go. Let's not go there.
I'm fine with the police, but there are some problems that need to be rectified, and that's one of them is their fear of other people and different colors, and that's just stupid. So there needs to be a major overhaul. Again, appreciate everything they do, but fix your shit. So that's all I'll say about that.
and on that note,
it's my turn. Yay. I'm
Rachel,
so glad.
Jack, and Ashley too.
I'm so glad you gave me the shittiest one to read.
I'll try not Miley Cyrus.
I'll try not to fall asleep while reading it. Rachel and Jack are sisters who live with their father after their mother's death. For her birthday, Rachel gets an AI doll called Ashley 2, designed after the pop star Ashley O. She dances to an Ashley O song at the school talent competition, but the routine ends badly. Meanwhile, Ashley O refuses to take pills given to her by Catherine, her manager and aunt, and plans to use the illegal activity as a way to get out of her contract. Catherine realizes this and puts the powdered pills into her food to put her in a coma. When Ashley 2 sees that Ashley O is comatose on a news report, she malfunctions. Jack manages to remove part of the software from her, and the doll comes to life, claiming to be a digital copy of Ashley O, which previously had a limiter on its brain function. Ashley 2 convinces Jack and Rachel to go to her house to find evidence against Catherine, and Jack drives dangerously to their house. They pretend to be mouse catchers for the bodyguard to let them in, and Rachel and Ashley 2 find Ashley O comatose with physical restraints in her bedroom. Ashley 2 unplugs a wire attached to Ashley O, and she begins to regain consciousness. Just reading this, it confuses me, and I've seen it. If that's what a clusterfuck this show was. An employee of Catherine is alerted to this and comes to sedate her. Rachel and Jack manage to use his sedative against him. With Ashley O and Ashley 2, they crash a venue where Catherine is delivering a speech announcing a new holographic Ashley O who will perform on tour. Later, Jack and Ashley O are seen performing alternative music together. You're like, besides all the episode, what did you think of that 9 Inch Nails Head Like a Hole? Like, don't even go into the story.
Nope.
That's funny.
Well, did you recognize that melody though? Okay, so they have a song that Ashley O pop star sings over and over, and I don't know if 20-something-year-olds would necessarily have recognized that right off the bat. So I was just curious, did y'all catch that, and what did you think of it?
Well, I of course did. 9 Inch Nails basically outlines most of my high school experience, so.
That was the only thing even remotely interesting in this episode is that they took such a dark song and made it into a pop song. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I thought this was the cheesiest fucking episode, and it degrades Black Mirror as a whole, and that's basically my 2 cents on this whole episode.
So, what are the numbers? What do you rate it?
Well, I give it a 3.5. And the only reason why I rate it that high is because I think the girls in it were good. I think it's not their fault that they were in a shitty episode. So I think they did their best. They were doing their best at the ending. I mean, come on. Like, now the girls in a band, it was just so out there and cheesy that I'm sorry, I don't really care for Miley Cyrus. I like her music, but she annoys the shit out of me. So
and then to have her personified by an Ashley 2 that's just like, I cuss and swear and I am so next level Ashley 2, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. This is probably Ashley O is Miley Cyrus. I mean, she did this. This was her. She did this. She was Hannah Montana. She was the poppy girl, and left that to be this, crazy, sex, like
much dark, much wow. I'm sexy and I'm this and that,
and I'm very controversial, and I ride, wrecking balls naked, and so she did this transition, but this is the dark version of that, and it's just not that interesting. Like that, it's not that
even remotely resonated with me. I just kind of couldn't help but thinking of Kesha and the stories, the horror stories that we don't even know all of coming out of her real life, with them kind of keeping her drugged up. Like we've heard that before with Britney, possibly, allegedly, but it's just keeping her drugged up and basically using her, that part, the violation of putting someone into a chemical coma on purpose so that you can mine their brain for other shit,
to keep the money rolling in.
Bit of a glimmer of what you expect from Black Mirror as far as like fucked up next level implications for the future, but it still was just so poorly executed. I think the use of young girls like that, and then the toy, the Ashley 2 doll, made it very juvenile and just sort of lowered the stakes for all of it. So
exactly.
What did you think, Yardley?
I agree with mostly everything that y'all said, because I just found myself throughout watching this episode, I just kept saying, but why Miley Cyrus?
Yeah.
Like every minute to go by, I just kept saying that over and over.
Like great British unknown, like singer actress that was less obnoxious.
Yeah, I don't want to see stars in these shows. I don't want to see people I know in these shows. It doesn't work.
Stunt casting really hurt them. And that was even the first episode. I was just like, I love Anthony Mackie, and that's all I can see, but I fucking hate this episode. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't really. I feel the same way. I guess in a way, the first episode and the third episode kind of bookend with like that feeling of, I just. When somebody says Black Mirror, I'm not thinking Miley Cyrus. I'm not thinking.
No. Now we will. We will forever now. Thanks, Black Mirror.
They've tainted it. They've tainted one of my favorite shows.
Yes.
Well, the thing that disappointed me the most about the last episode is that it was the last one. Like, you closed the episode with like the weakest, the anthology of the three.
Hey,
like,
she was
that's
singing
the one
"Head Like a Hole," y'all. That's a song nobody's ever heard before.
I'm happy it was my last. It was my first.
Yeah,
because that's the first one I watched.
You would have been kind of.
It's the first one that played for me for some reason. I have no idea why, but when I pushed the Black Mirror, it played this one first. So I was a little worried going in, but at least I got the worst one out of the way. And because I was gonna have to watch all of these anyway. Now, if this had happened to somebody else, and this is the first time they've ever seen Black Mirror, I don't think they would have continued on with the rest of the shows. I can tell you that.
Well, and I watched the Anthony Mackie one first, and I was like, that wasn't great, but now I expect they'll get better from here.
No.
Yes.
So I think if they would have done this one differently, if they had handled this differently, take the fucking toy out of it and the kids and put this strictly as a music. Like, who cares? I'm sorry. Their story did not resonate with me at all. It was like too cheesy for Black Mirror. I think if they would have just had the musician, acting out, being tired of doing the pop star thing, wanting out, and them doing what they did. Maybe not put Miley Cyrus in that part. Definitely not put Miley Cyrus in that part. Sorry, I'll be brutally honest. And continued it that way of getting her out of this situation in a different way, I could have been on board with this. But this whole mishmash of people and their stories just did not interest me at all. None of it. I didn't even care if she was laying in a bed comatose. I was just so
You know
over
what
it
could
by
have been
then.
kind of interesting is to have a pop star that was arguably aging out. So you take an actor
Mhm.
that's relatively unknown but has some talent, but is quote unquote aging out. Like maybe they're in their late 20s for the pop star game is getting old. And maybe
Right.
that's when you see their abusive aunt kind of like take her down and maybe she's going to expose them and move on with her career the way that this girl wanted to, but she's like, you're getting too old, we got to reinvent you by, you know, put you back in the limelight by putting you in this coma and then using your music. That might have been a little more interesting, and then you wouldn't
Yeah.
have had to even have the doll, and I don't know, a little more gritty, a little less like little girlish, I don't know.
Yeah. Agreed. I was very disappointed by this one. So it is what it is, though. What you gonna do?
True story. So what do we rate the overall season? I don't even know if you can call 3 episodes a season. The mini series. What do you guys rate it? Yardley?
6.
I say I was gonna 6 was in my head too. So even though you said it, I'm gonna stick with it. 6.
Because you're right about, I don't know if people would continue watching Black Mirror from these. I would give it a 5 because you can't, it sucks that you have jeopardized an entire kind of this legacy of what Black Mirror is with these 3 episodes. So you get a 5, which is an F, really. Out of 10. Any other final thoughts, guys?
No.
No, I don't have any.
These episodes don't warrant any final thoughts. Christy, are we going to be a TBD, or do you know what we're going to do on our next?
We're going to do the Atlanta child murders. I am not happy with the last one, and it nothing to do with our guest. We had a guest host.
There was a lot of intoxication.
It was a
factored into
very bad
this
day.
form.
Yeah, for me. And I was really wanting to do this episode the right way. And so I didn't. And of all the episodes that I've done, this one was important to me. I did so much fucking research and I worked so hard on it. To then have you blow it your fucking self sucks. So I did that. I own it. And the sound quality was horrible. So this is the first time I'm ever demanding a redo of a show. But I think it'll be worth the wait. And
Guys, our producer is so demanding. My God.
Yeah, I am. I am putting my foot down, man. I have worked a week trying to find a lost episode before forcing us to redo it, and I did find it, and I posted it, and it worked. But usually I'm like, nope. I'm going to make this work because our time is really precious right now. But no, I will be a diva, and we're going to redo it. We're going to do it the right way. And I'm glad Yardley will be a part of the conversation because he's in Atlanta. I mean, I think he's going to have a great perspective. Yes. The big, basically, after, even though I drunkenly came to the conclusion, it's blaringly obvious that 29 children were dead because they were African American. And so it's a disgusting story. It's awful.
It is.
I don't want to do it right. So that's what we're going to talk about.
And I've now finished the entirety of the first season of the Atlanta Monster podcast series, which does feature many interviews and in-depth discussion about the Wayne Williams, the man who is in prison for having allegedly killed these, actually only been caught for 2 out of the 29 murders, murders and 1 disappearance, I believe. So I definitely have a different perspective, though my original thing still stands. But anyways, we'll get into all of that next week.
So we're going to do that one again and have Dan in for another one. Bless his heart. Tell him I'm very sorry that it is nothing that he did, though. He was fantastic. So
he was the only sober person in that episode.
Was. God, I'm so mad at myself. Every time I go back and try to edit it and I listen to it and I'm like, oh my God, shut the fuck up, to myself. Like I was just cutting. It would have been like a 20-minute episode after I was finished with it. So let's just redo it.
Let's do it some justice for sure.
Exactly. So, yep, that's what we're going to do.
Nice. All right. Any final thoughts from anybody on anything? Bueller?
Just a creeper rail, y'all.
Well, you can
Yep.
find me on Twitter at militant_marker. How can they find you, ladies?
I'm Creepin' at Christy on Instagram and Creepin_it on Twitter.
I am Rebel Moni on Twitter and Moni Bear on Instagram. Yes, I was like, is it reverse? No.
And one more thing.
We just make it and do all the same. What's that?
One more thing. Hey, y'all, go to our either our Podbean, however you're listening to this, or Apple Podcast, iTunes, whatever it's called, and give us a nice rating and review. We need those, and I would like to see our little stars rise and our little rating number rise. It always makes me happy when I go in and I see a new one, and we read all of them. And
the messages that you guys are sending us, we're reading and responding to. So thank you for being interactive with us.
Yes, and sometimes if you send us a message and it's shitty, I have zero fucks to give. So I'll just you're gonna hear either I'll ignore it, or if you hear back, it's me not giving a fuck. So just prepare for that.
I don't feed trolls, so I just read it and laugh. I'm just like, send the message, take a seat.
Yeah,
you're welcome for the free entertainment.
Anybody complaining that we're talking about a show, the entire show, an entire season of show, just because you haven't seen it, needs to have a lot of seats. That's just all I'm saying. But anyway, I'm like, really?
At least we got blocked. So.
Yeah.
That was totally our fault, right?
Moving on. But I'm like, seriously, dude? Come on. Okay.
We love our listeners.
We do. Just be reasonable. If that's even humanly possible.
Listen to a pop culture podcast if you don't want to hear about pop culture stuff.
Exactly.
On that note, we're going to take it out. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Hate listening or not. Hopefully not.
See ya.